The upcycle, what's the upcycle?
I think the upcycle is, being able to recognize those parts of, the puzzle, the pieces of the puzzle that, sort of equate ourselves that no longer serve us, right? Or that no longer serve us in the same way that they may have before. And, realizing, what to change, what to abandon, what to, adopt in a different way. Yeah, but upcycle, man, it's what it's essentially, it's a Philly thing, it's what we're about, making something out of nothing, or doing with what you have, like doing for self with what you've been provided,
But the beauty is, it's not just recycle.
No.
That's the beauty, that's why the title...
It's to make it better, to, put it to a better purpose, right? A greater purpose, have it, serve, someone beyond, just the singular self, you know what I mean?
You mind if I read something from the book?
Okay.
After my father's death, in a considerable mourning period, my mother began to date again. Mm-hmm. Some of my earliest memories of life in the years before the fire are of those men and the normality of their abuse. Mm-hmm. This is the important part for me, or the powerful part for me. James was a cool dude until he wasn't. His laid-back air was switched to a threatening, aggressive, controlling side. Once he and my mom got into an argument outside of a bar in Philly. I don't know exactly what it was about, but my mom and me had left our house, gotten into her car, and pulled up on him at some small neighborhood spot. I watched from the backseat as mom double parked and jumped out of our car with her slapjack, a black leather-bound handheld baton containing a small spring mechanism that allowed it to bounce back after impact.
Yeah, my mom used to fuck people up, man.
I'm about to say, that is the most articulate analysis.
Listen, and it always come right back.
I was like, damn, that's some precision. And she proceeded, and she said to fuck up the car.
Yeah.
And he comes charging out the bar. What did you do to my car? She cursed him from our roll down passenger window. I tried to come to her defense and jump on his back, but it was a losing battle because he had hopped inside and started choking my mom. He was a big, geechy, down south longshoreman, old dude, and I was only 6 years old, so he manhandled me and slapped me back into my seat. I remember him saying, "Little nigga," just as he hit me, and I think that's the first time I recall being called a nigger. Eventually, the brawl ended and we left. My mom was crying and shaking as we drove through dimly lit Philly streets back home, but she let James keep coming around. I never fucked with him from that point on, despite him bringing groceries and giving me $10 and $20 bills. When he came around, I knew we were going to have good grub. There would be lunch meat to make sandwiches, cereal, and milk in the morning, 7-Up and fruit punch, Entenmann's cakes, and other sweet tooth things. Still, I didn't like him. I didn't care if that geechy down south longshoreman dude never came back, even if we starved. He became a name on my list, the earliest and far more serious version of the Irk list I sometimes read on Fallon sometimes. The list of the things in life that annoy me. Back then, the list found its home inside my mom's encyclopedia sets. On the last page of the A volume, I wrote the names of people that I planned to exact my revenge upon. And James Black's name was written right after whoever killed my dad. There's so much there, man. So much unpacking, so much. First of all, coming to terms with those memories as you're working on this project. Well, part of the reason I don't write this kind of stuff is that I'm not prepared to deal with it. How did you manage doing that?
Gingerly, you know what I mean? It was a delicate balance. I think, part of what made me as open as I was able to be was my co-author. You know what I'm saying? Working with Jasmine Martin.
Can we shout her out, by the way?
Yeah.
We're doing old black cookbook.
I mean for everyone, but especially for me, X probably 10 or 20. When it comes down to having a conversation, doing an interview with someone, you have to it's a trust fall. You know what I mean? So I have to trust you, I have to respect you in order to be as open, as required. Because for me, it's a lot to overcome, just within myself before I utter a syllable. I think, working with, someone that I was able to trust in that way, and who, again, it's a two-way street, right? It's a, so that sort of negotiation you know, had taken place, and yeah, and I was able to be open. But it's definitely it was a cathartic experience. You know, I've shed more than a couple tears. You know, I think it's necessary, and I think in this, like through telling this story and through telling this part of my story, it feels like a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulder.
It feels like it.
Yeah.
It feels like it. In the book, you talk about being a latchkey kid.
Yeah.
And wishing your mom sometimes was home.
Right.
Wishing somebody was there to say, hey, yo, have a good day in school.
Yeah.
How much of who you are as an artist and as a person is based on your circumstances, and how much of that is just who do you believe is innate?
I think the majority of it is, maybe all of it is circumstances. You know, just the ways in which I sort of had to, you know, rise to those circumstances to deal with them. You know, and things that we took for granted. You know what I mean? At that point in time, things that would never happen, you know, today, or that couldn't happen in the same way. Like I've been working since 7th grade. I've, you know, always been able to find a job, like gainful employment, where I would do a thing, you know, provide a service and be compensated for that. And, you know, you can't have a 2nd grader working for you. I had jobs, you know. So, you know, I think those circumstances and just what I, you know, had experienced as a young person, you know, kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, and, you know, as a latchkey kid, and that, you know, self-sufficiency and independence. It's stuck with me.
And it informs your art.
Absolutely, it informs everything.
And yet you joined a group.
Yo, lost generation, fast-paced nation, world population confront their frustration.
I don't like being in the forefront. I don't like, you know, talking to people. But every job that I do involves, you know, speaking to lots of people. But yeah, you know, I think my life is an exercise in just overcoming, you know, that anxiety. You know, it's not like I'm not aware of it, but you gotta, you know, go through it to get to it. You know?
Art saved my life.
Yeah.
Is a phrase from the book that resonated with me as well. Art saved my life. Mm-hmm. I hear a lot of people say that. I hear people talk about hip hop saved their life. Rock saved their life, acting saved. Most of the time they're lying, right? Most of the time they were just fine, right? They might have had a different life, but they would have still been living. There's a way when I read your book that I believe you.
It's true.
Why?
You know, I mean, just coming from Philly at the time that, you know, I was sort of, you know, growing up. They talk about getting in with the wrong crowd. Like there wasn't any wrong, it was right crowd or wrong. It was just, you know, like it was just the crowd. And I was doing what, you know, everyone did. I did the things that, you know what I mean, all the rest of my peers did in my neighborhood, you know, for better or worse. And those were just the examples that had been set for us, right? You know, and at a time in my life, you know, when I, you know, began, I mean, I guess the youngest age that I recall having lost a friend, like say to gunfire or something, was probably around the age of 10. You know what I mean? When I was 10, I knew another 10-year-old, you know, young man who I called my cousin just because our families were so close. He lived in Richard Allen Projects. And he was shot by a stray bullet. And, you know, just that level of, you know, loss is something that, you know, we normalize and we become numb to, and it toughens us. But I always had a model.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that model I found in the arts. It was like, that was my escapism. Whenever, you know, and it was, I guess at such a young age, I didn't realize how it transcended medium, and it wasn't just about, you know, music or visual art or creative writing or, you know, theater, or it was about it all. And, you know, anytime I, you know, was exposed even a little bit to any of it, how one discipline would inform the other. You know, and it's I mean, if I didn't have that, I would have never, you know, pursued my interest again in visual arts, or wound up at the High School for Creative and Performing Arts, where, you know, I attended for a couple years before being asked to leave.
They blame you though.
Black thought, so hip that I'm square. The rhythm that you hear is from the kids right over there.
What is the first piece or genre of art that made you feel like, yo, this is what my life's supposed to be?
The first genre, I mean, I would have to say it's hip hop. You know, it was graffiti. You know, And it was, you know, I don't know if y'all know graffiti, like tagging our names on the wall. That's something that was, you know, that's a Philadelphia thing. That, you know, the first dude who was known for running around, like who had All City, who had that rep of writing his name everywhere that you recognize, you look at it, oh wow, that's dude, that's Cornbread, that's a brother from Philly, really. Yeah. So yeah, you know, that was as far as genres of art, you know, that was my, you know, the initial exposure that, you know, sort of lit the fuel, the fire under my feet, so to speak, has to have been, you know, some hip hop thing. But, you know, taking summer art classes in Fairmount Park, you know, was definitely huge for me. And, you know, just Fairmount Park, another section of the city, so close, yet, you know what I mean, it felt so far and just different. For me, it almost felt like a return back to a little bit of Mount Airy, a little bit of, you know, because there was greenery, there was trees and shit. In South Philly, it was none of that. It was just concrete roads, you know what I mean? Like cracked pavements, you know? So yeah, just the opportunity to go out into the park early in the morning on the summer and you know, create, you know what I'm saying, do something dope, and then come home and folks still are just waking up on the block. I always loved the feeling of, you know, just being the early bird, right? Like, you know what I'm saying, I'm an early riser. I like to get, you know, just get to it first, like whatever it is. I'm you know, I'm a morning dude. My name is Tariq. I'm the come by night, right? So, you know, I'm that middle, I get up in the middle of the night, like that's how I move. So yeah, it was something, I got something in the fact that, you know, I would be coming back home from having learned a thing and created a thing, and my friends would just be waking up. I'm like, yeah, I got you, you know. You know. So after that, it was, I think, I just sort of caught the bug, you know.
A big thing about art is failing.
Yeah. A big thing about life.
Like, yeah, sure. But like life, for most time you don't check out, right? You just keep living. But art, you can just stop. Yeah. Like I tried rapping, I wasn't good at it. I tried like 3 times, I wasn't good. That's all I did. You know, you kept going.
Yes.
Or were you just always amazing at it?
I was always amazing at it.
How about that answer?
No, here's the thing though. Again, I talk about, you know, the time in which, you know, like from which I come. You could, if you were into hip hop, you had to embrace it as a culture. It wasn't like, oh, you know, I rap, you know what I'm saying, but I don't do anything else in the hip hop space. You know, because I was a hip hopper, I was a rapper, I was a b-boy. I, you know, did graffiti. I did the human beatbox. I tried to DJ. I embraced the culture, every pillar, every fundamental. You know, and then I leaned into that, you know, in which I excelled the most. You know what I'm saying? I was just, from the first rhyme that I wrote at the age of 9, it was a thing. Like that was just, I was better at rapping. You know, so yeah, I wound up leaning into that. But you couldn't, you know, you had to embrace it all. You know what I'm saying? In the 80s.
Yeah. Does hip hop, or maybe art more broadly, suffer from people not being that sort of dynamic or protean in their engagement?
I think, you know, where art suffers right now, where the arts suffer is in funding for education. You know what I mean? I think, it's as simple as that. It's as simple as, you know, just exposure to a thing, you know. I'm the living example of it, so.
That's real. I mean, the book sometimes felt like it was like a testimonial for like arts education, for a program or something.
I'm a testimonial for arts education.
Right.
And you know, real. I'm trying to stop, you know, using the term, you know, saving grace. Art is my saving grace, because a couple of my friends been like making fun of me for saying it so much. But I mean, it just, that's what it is, man. You know, that's what saved my life, man. I mean, you know, as the legend goes, I got in trouble with my girlfriend at the time in school.
How old were you?
I was like 14. Yeah, I was in 9th grade.
Yeah.
And I got suspended. It was far from my first time being suspended. I got suspended for lots of stuff. You know, in elementary school, middle school, whatever. But yeah, this time I was coming back. I was in the principal's office or whatever, and Amir walked into the office. I felt like he was, now you know, maybe he wasn't, but I felt like he was just coming into the office like to give gifts to the principal, to faculty. You know, here's your apple, here's your, you know. Yeah, because I don't know what he was doing, but you know, one of my hustles at the time was, you know, doing hand painted jackets and jeans. And I also used to make medallions. Like I would utilize my time, like in my art classes, to make merch, and then I would sell it, to cats in the hallways and stuff.
That's smart.
So Amir walks into the office and he had a jacket kind of like this, but with a hand-painted peace sign on the back of it, and he had like one of those chunky beaded necklaces on with like a fist on it and stuff. And I initially just perked up, like, who sold him this stuff? You know what I mean? It's sort of infringing on my, like, who on my block? You know what I mean? That's what sparked the conversation. And when I asked him about the jacket, and he said, no, I got this from my parents. And I said, well, are your parents artists? And he said, they're musical artists. You know what I'm saying? My parents, my family's a band, and boom, boom, boom. And, it was just matter of fact for him. No, I'm a musical director in my family. So, I was just super intrigued, like he had me, just from there. And then, I made it that far. I guess I started rapping at 9. I was like 14 or maybe about to turn 15 at this point. And I hadn't really been in a group. Like I did my first performance at the talent show was with a group, and then I was sort of, just a solo dude. I never had a DJ, never had anyone that like made my beats. I never had a musician to back me. But when I met Amir, he could recreate and, sort of approximate all of my favorite breaks. Yeah. And then it was like, yo, I got music now, and it was just on. So yeah, and I think, part of the allure on both sides of the coin was, I lived a life. I had a lived experience, that he'd only, imagined. Right. And he'd only dreamed about, and vice versa.
Yeah. I thought about that when you offered him the NWA tapes.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, this shit crazy, but you can take it home. He's like, I can't take this home.
He said, you take it home, you bring it to school tomorrow, I'll listen to it again. Yeah.
Then forget it's people in the world still enslaved. I barbed wire my wrist and let it fill a page.
In my estimation, greatest freestyle in hip-hop history is that Flex freestyle. And I texted you on the anniversary of the freestyle, and I said to him, I said, yo, bro, I just want you to know on the 5th anniversary of freestyle, this shit is the best freestyle ever. And whenever I want to do anything awesome, or something creative, I always listen to it for inspiration. Sincerely, inspiration about what it means to master a craft. I want to know about the freestyle in particular, but talk to me about the discipline, the mastery, the care that goes into getting to that point. And how do you do that? And Amir's the same way. You talk about in the book, right? That he's drumming. You call him, oh, he can't talk before he's drumming. Hang up, bang, right? How do you develop that level of rigor and discipline without becoming so uniform and regimented that you're not free anymore? Because that's the thing I worry about sometimes. That you can get so like, it becomes you're scared almost out there. Like when athletes, they practice so much sometimes, when they listen to the coach so much, they get on the court and they're not thinking, they're not playing, they're thinking.
Right.
How do you master the discipline without losing sight of your creative spirit and freedom?
It's just been a blessing, Mark. By the seat of my pants, bro. But the fact that we've been around and I've been around, sort of focusing on the same thing for such a long time, I've just been able to come to understand all the nuance involved in lyricism.
Do you think about it at all?
I do. I think about it. I was talking about this with someone earlier. I don't always think about it. If I'm on stage with the Roots, with the members of the Roots who are members of the Roots, and we're doing our thing, I could be on autopilot, and I could be performing a concert for 20,000 people and be, texting, you know what I'm saying? Or, thinking about what I'm gonna cook when I get home, or, you know what I'm saying, how one of my kids is in trouble as soon as I get off the stage. But if you introduce one variable, say if, Mark Kelly, who plays bass in the Roots, isn't playing bass tonight, and we have someone sitting in with him, then there's a super subtle compensation, not an overcompensation, let me a slight overcompensation that all members of the band have to sort of make. And in that, none of us are on autopilot. We all have to be present in a different way. You know what I'm saying? So I think it works both ways. But the blessing that I've been able to appreciate is that I've worked with some of the same people for such a long time that it's that level of brotherhood. We're at the point in the trust fall where it's like look mine on hands. Yeah.
the autopilot mode, I get that it's comfortable because you can do other things.
Yeah.
And I get the level of intensity and focus it takes to not be in that mode.
Right.
But when are you what is your favorite artistic space to be in? Is it the autopilot mode, or is it when somebody jumps up on the stage that you're not expecting and does something that you don't expect?
Man, my favorite artistic space to be in, yeah, I think it's, you know, with the unexpected. You know, I appreciate, you know, just having to be present, you know, but those occurrences are few and far between for me in the music space at this point in my career. It's not that no new things don't happen to me musically. You know what I'm saying? It's rare. I have to, you know, make a conscious effort to do something different, right? A different, you know, collaborative thing. But, you know, yeah, I don't know, man. I guess it's hard.
Yeah, no, I asked that because I don't know what you do. Like as an athlete, when you master it, you just win more championships.
Yeah. You know, for me, you just move on to a different medium. That again, it just presents. And I guess now, when I think about it, I guess it started sort of when, you know, early on when we were me and Malik, right? You know, we would rock with the roots, and then we would get hired by a jazz musician who might want to take us out on the road to rap over some, you know, some music with Steve Coleman or you know what I'm saying, Greg Osby or somebody who, you know, is playing in some strange meter that we have to engage with in a different way. After we go out and we rock with them, then we come back to what it is that we do that, you know, we're more familiar with and more comfortable with. It's just it's something in that safe space that you know lends itself to just a different level of mastery and of appreciation. You know.
But you don't just do it musically. I remember again hearing from you. Maybe I don't remember what you were in New York, and you said, "Yeah, I'm doing this play."
Yeah, but that's a good example. You know what I'm saying?
I was like, "You doing a play?"
Yeah.
How do you? I was like, "How do you have time?" Right? You're on tour a million times a year. You're on TV every night. But then I was like, "Why that genre?" Talk to me about what that genre does for you.
You know what musical theater does for me. What it has done is just given me a different appreciation for you know certain aesthetics. You know what I mean? You know, for writing and you know delivery and performance and projection. But maybe above all else, you know, one of the things that not that I've walked away from that project, but one of the things that I feel in my body that you know has changed is my appreciation for stillness. Right? Yeah, for stillness. And that's something that, you know, that's a certain level of mastery in theater. You know, when you're able to convey that level of emotion without moving, you know what I mean? I think there's mastery in that. There's a beauty in that. And it's something that, you know, I just thought was super dope. And it's wow. You know, if you're standing and you're in the middle of a performance and you shift the weight from one leg, your weight from one leg to the other, the audience can become disengaged. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah, so this is getting, but then that, so from that, you know, I'm able to apply that to, you know, what I do in the roots when I come back to it. You know, and it's again, it's just one of those things from musical theater, or if it's stand-up comedy, or if I'm teaching my class at NYU, any of that shit. It's all an exercise in overcoming that anxiety and that, you know, what we talked about in the beginning. It's a conscious effort in that, and that's what sort of gets me, you know, rising to that challenge. You know what I mean?
So who are you now?
I'm an artist, man. I'm Tariq Trotter. I'm Black Thought. You know, I'm Daddy.